What's new, crew? Last week I did a week in my homestead kitchen during preservation season and you guys loved it. So here's week 2 of a week of preservation season kitchen projects. A lot of things happening this weekend, or this week I should say. Lots and lots of stuff coming out of the garden. We're making pickles. We have some fish that Joe brought home and we're getting that stuff in the freezer. Lots of tomatoes are starting to come out of the garden, so we're going to do things with those. We have leftover produce from last week that I'm dealing with, some cauliflower. Like I said, lots of pickles heading down. We're taking some rainy days to tackle some random projects that we need to get done. But let's start off with Joe. This is Sunday night and he went fishing and was able to get some more trout in our freezer for the winter ahead. So let's start there.
This is a native fish?
Mm-hmm.
This is a stock fish. Dad. Can you tell the difference?
Yeah, that's wild. Look how much pinker that one is.
Yeah.
Dad, that's a real fish.
So these are ones that are like in a holding tank, like in a building somewhere, and then they get stocked. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Versus this is like one that was born there,
born in
came
the
back.
No, there's no coming back.
So these aren't like salmon where they like come back and spawn in the same. They just live in the same stream. Cool. Okay.
The big river or the small river?
I guess it depends on the river.
My name is the little river or the big river?
The little river. Joe just got back with another, I guess, little grocery restock. But he found some lobster mushrooms, so he came home with these. Definitely excited to find some sort of recipe that will be good with these in, so that'll be fun to look up. But then him and my brother-in-law went trout fishing, and my brother-in-law sent Joe home with his trout because apparently he has a freezer full. So we got to take his fish plus whatever Joe caught. So these are more fish for the freezer, and then some mushrooms for some meals somewhat in the next couple days here. Today in my homestead kitchen, we're making homemade shower steamers. I'm actually making this for a video for my other channel. If you didn't know, I do have another channel. It's just cleaning hacks, like all natural cleaning with like vinegar and baking soda and things like that. Shower steamers for the upcoming cold and flu season. Kids are going back to school, which definitely means head colds are going to be a thing. This is the most simple recipe ever. It's 4 cups of water with a tablespoon of your Vicks of choice. I'm using this baby chest rub. I love it. This is something that I get everybody for baby shower gifts because it's never something that you know that you need until you need it and you don't have it. We love this stuff. I love the baby rub even for myself because it has like that lavender hint to it. It's calming. It's just a comforting smell. So that's what I am using. I'm doubling this recipe. So I did 8 cups of water. Yes, absolutely. I did 8 cups of water with 2 tablespoons of Vicks, and then all you do is kind of melt the Vicks down in the water. Go ahead and turn your stove off, let it cool for a couple minutes, and then you pour it into your ice cube trays, pop them in the freezer. Once they're frozen, take them out of your trays, put them in a Ziploc bag, and then keep them in the freezer. And then whenever somebody is sick, sorry, I've got popcorn here, I have a popcorn request. But whenever you're sick, somebody's sick, you just take them frozen out of the freezer and throw them in the bottom of your shower as a steamer. I've made these before last year. They work really well. Everybody loves them a lot. So I'm doing a double batch. Hopefully we'll get lots of shower steamers. And these go really quickly once you're sick, especially in a household our size with 6 people. So I'm going to make a double batch, get these in the freezer, and hopefully won't have to worry about it for a while. So that's what I'm working on today. It's a rainy day, so today's a good day to do it. It's supposed to rain on and off all day. Yesterday we were down in the garden together. I got all the vegetables, harvested everything, so there's really nothing to do down there today. So this is a good day to tackle some of these random house projects here. So that's what I'm working on today. We just finished up with a huge, well, my biggest preservation day of the season thus far. We did 2 batches of dill pickles. Kids were super cooperative today with that, so that was awesome. Baby slept through the cleanup and like the last round of pickles, which was awesome. We also went ahead and did a crock pot dinner of sloppy joes. We processed a bunch of tomatoes today. Well, not processed, we got them in the freezer so we can process later, and we processed some cauliflower. Zucchinis are going to be for another day, but this was a lot of good wins today. I also have a ton of leftover dill. What I'm going to do is pick all the dill off of the stems and put this in the refrigerator. If I don't use it in the next couple of days, I will chuck it in the freezer. Dill freezes awesome. And then I'll use the rest of this throughout the winter. Maybe later in the season I'll have another batch of pickles going or something. Or maybe with some of our salmon. We'll see what happens. This will be used. So I'll do that, but that is a project for another day. So maybe we'll tackle that later this week. We will see what happens. Tomorrow's the last day of summer for my kids. My kids go back on Thursday. Today's Tuesday. So tomorrow's gonna be fun. We're just gonna hang out, enjoy the last day of summer. We're gonna get back into a school routine this week, which feels really wild to say already. So we'll see kind of what preservation looks like the rest of the week. It depends what's coming out of the garden. It's Friday. I'm getting ready to make a pizza crust. We're gonna do calzones tonight for dinner. We do it every Friday, especially during the school year, because it's just super easy. Great Friday night dinner. So we're gonna do calzones and a movie tonight, as we do pretty much every Friday night during the school year. So gotta get my pizza dough going here. I've talked about this before, but I just taped them to the inside of my kitchen cabinet. This is my bread recipe also, and that way I have it. At this point I pretty much have it memorized, but sometimes if I haven't made it in a while, it's always good to just have it on backup. So I just taped them to the inside of my cabinet so I don't have to pull it up on my phone all the time. So I also went down to the garden. It's been kind of hard because they're actually building our garage. So we have a ton of workers and a lot of equipment right by the garden. So I feel kind of weird being out there during the day, but I forced myself to go out there today, and this is what I was able to get. I'm gonna go back down there tonight once it cools off and finish picking. I have a lot of tomatoes I need to go hunting for, but we got lettuce, some broccoli, green beans. I have lavender on the bottom that I need to put in the dehydrator. Lots of good things happening here. Plus I have more tomatoes here that are ripening, and I've just been slowly adding them to that bag in the freezer that we already have going. So lots of good things happening, but let's get the pizza crust rocked out. I started making this pizza crust recipe back in 2020 when COVID hit, and I decided that being self-sufficient was something that I really wanted to do and was really passionate about. So this is the one pizza recipe that I found on Pinterest, and I've been using ever since. It's fantastic. We use it for strombolis, calzones. I've made breakfast little pockets out of this. I make these all the time, but this recipe is written out down below in the description box for you. I found it off Pinterest, but it's fantastic. I use it all the time, and it's amazing. Today's the day I finally start processing more of that big box of zucchini I have. I got my food processor out. I washed a couple zucchinis. I'm just going to keep rotating the sink between washing zucchinis, shredding zucchinis, and then packaging them and getting them in the freezer. So that's the big goal for today. I regret this, in my mind reckless, thoughts are feeling endless, sitting up I'm breathless, anxiety's infectious, I feel so defenseless, betrayed and embarrassed. I hate being open, I hate being broken, I feel like an ocean filled up with emotion. Anger ain't a potion, rub it on like lotion, I can feel it soaking, reopen, the scars have awoken. My bread dough is here. It's a little wet, but nonetheless it'll be okay. I'm gonna put this here in my bowl. I already have oil in it, and I'm just gonna set this aside, and I'm gonna start my spaghetti sauce. All you're gonna need is a crock pot, your cutting board, and a knife. So let's go ahead and get that started. I'm gonna set this aside. I'm also going to rinse this out quick because I'm also gonna be making a carrot cake today, and I'm going to need this. So I'm going to wash this out. I'm just going to leave my flour mess here because we're going to be making a cake, so I'm only going to clean up once. But let's get this rinsed, and then let's start with the tomatoes here. These are my tomatoes. I have 2 bags here. They are straight out of the freezer. I'm just going to rinse them under hot water because I didn't wash these before I put them in the freezer. So I want to get these rinsed. The skins will come right off, and I'm going to throw them right in my crock pot here, just the way they are.
I'm going to take this. I'm going to leave this out.
While that's going, I'm going to look through this crate here and see if I have any tomatoes that I can rinse, core, and then put in my crock pot. If they have a growth spot on them, I'm just going to cut off the yucky part and get these thrown in the crock pot too. And this is just the easiest way to make spaghetti sauce. This is what I did last year, except I made it in my 22 quart roaster pan. I don't have quite enough to do that today. So that's why we're just using the crock pot. I need to get a bowl for scraps here. And then you can either cut these down so that they cook down faster in your crock pot, or you can leave them whole. It really doesn't matter. But you can see the skins just peel right off. I learned this trick, pretty sure from Instagram maybe, or just watching other people's homestead videos. And this is awesome because I hate peeling tomatoes, standing over a stove peeling tomatoes. It just takes forever. So I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm just gonna cut off the yucky spot here, pour it out. I think next time before I do this, I'm gonna core my tomatoes before I put them in the freezer. But live and learn, live and learn. I did have to go get my big roaster. I have way more tomatoes than I thought I did. So both fresh and like peeled frozen tomatoes in here. So some have the skins on them, some don't. Doesn't really matter. As long as you take off the yucky parts, you're good to go. But I'm just going to dip this in my roaster. We're switching to a voiceover because I completely underestimated how loud my house had gotten after this. But all we're doing is taking this zucchini, I'm chopping it up, and I'm putting this in my spaghetti sauce. I like to do this that way when my kids only want a cheese pizza, or if I'm running out of time and I'm making spaghetti or a pasta dish and I don't want to throw any vegetables in it, I know that there's still vegetables in the sauce. Later on in the cooking process, I do add another zucchini just as it started to cook down, and I wanted more zucchini in it. I'm adding all my spices. I do oregano, basil, pepper, salt, and then I just turn that on and let it go, and I occasionally stir it. For my bread dough, all I'm doing is cutting this in half and rolling it into 2 loaves and putting it in my greased baking dishes. I like to put these back in the oven just with my oven light on to proof. That's my favorite way to do it. And then once they were big and puffy and ready to be baked, all I do is turn my oven on and let those go until they're golden and beautiful and delicious. And there are our 2 beautiful loaves of bread. So you can see my tomato sauce is starting to cook down. There's a lot of water here. If you want, you can let it cook just like this with the top off. That way the water has somewhere to evaporate to and the sauce gets thicker. The longer you let it go, the thicker it's going to get. My sauce has been cooking all day essentially. I think it's been going for like 6 hours, just occasionally stirring it in the roaster pot. I've done literally nothing else since then. I have my immersion blender. I'm just going to blend it right in the roaster. I used to do this with a blender, but I got this last season and it's one of the best investments I've ever made. I would highly recommend. So I've got my sauce, I have my brown sugar. I haven't added any of that yet. That's just what I choose to use to sweeten it. You can use regular sugar too, or you don't have to add any sugar, honestly, but that's what my family like. So I'm just taking my immersion blender and I blended that until it was the consistency that I liked. I'm adding in brown sugar. This takes away the tartness to the tomatoes, especially because I used a lot of yellow and a lot of orange tomatoes. So it can be a little tart, if you know what I mean. So the brown sugar helps cut that. You can add regular sugar. I just like brown. Once you do a lot of taste testing and you get it to the point where you want, all you have to do is load them into your jars with a little bit of lemon juice. I put in about a half a tablespoon of lemon juice into each one of these jars before I ladled in my sauce over top. It really doesn't change the flavor. I promise it doesn't. It's fine. If you're worried about it, you can add in a little bit of extra brown sugar to your sauce to counteract the lemon juice that'll be there. Once you get all of your jars filled, then we are moving on to processing, and it is just 15 minutes in your water bath canner. Very simple, very straightforward. So after this, I get my water bath canner prepped and up on the stove, and I have that warming up while I'm filling up these jars. That's a little bit of lemon juice there, and then you just have to top them. Well, of course, wipe your rims, get your lids on, put your rings on, and then load them into your warm water bath canner. Very simple, very straightforward, and I have a lot of helpers in the kitchen with me this day, so there's a lot going on beneath my feet, but that's just pretty usual with all the kids. So I'm just gonna load these into the water bath canner, and like I said, process for 15 minutes, and then bam, we've got delicious prepped spaghetti sauce, perfect every single time to have throughout the winter months. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys have a fantastic day and that you guys enjoyed this week in my homestead kitchen, and of course I will catch you guys in another one.
Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day.